Welcome to Across the Pond, a podcast for leaders in market research to help them grow their insight agencies, with Steve Henke and Paul Griffiths.
Well, welcome everybody. Welcome back to Across the Pond, a podcast on how to grow your insights agency. I'm Steve Henke with Harpeth Marketing.
Hello, and I'm Paul Griffiths from Client Advocates. And today we've got a really interesting topic because we want to talk about how you, as an agency owner or agency leader, talk about sales and marketing in the internal commercial conversations that you have in your agency to talk about and promote growth. So Steve and I, we're going to go through some bits and pieces in terms of what we think and what you might want to do. But as with the last couple of pods, I think Steve and I might have taken a slightly different approach to this. So I'm really excited to find out what Steve's got to say and what I've got to say, and whether there's lots of crossover or lots of discussion and disagreement. So, Steve, where do you come from on this?
Interesting. It's an interesting discussion. I think that this sort of thing, sales and marketing in what is generally an operations-driven industry, and we're not the only industry like that. To me, it's a cultural thing, right? And I think it's a cultural thing at a couple of levels. I think it is sort of an industry-wide, sort of this endemic thing, which is, and I'm paraphrasing here, as a researcher, I'm doing all the work. Why is he getting the commissions? If you think about it kind of from a sales perspective, and I've been in sales most of my life. It's not an uncommon sentiment.
Yeah.
So I think there's that just industry-wide cultural issue that has to be navigated. But the way to address that would be at the company level. And at the company level, it's also a cultural thing. Again, we're operations driven. It's all about the project, the next project. We need to, with any cultural issue, culture starts at the top. And so the senior leaders of an organization need to begin to integrate sales and marketing conversations into ostensibly day-to-day conversations, so it becomes part of the workings of that particular company.
Okay. So you're talking about essentially how do we embed more of a sales and marketing, more of a commercial culture into research agencies, which essentially are technical production houses designed to run and deliver research projects.
Absolutely. Yes, I do believe that.
Okay, excellent. So you've obviously got a view on this in terms of how you engender that culture, and you've referred there to it comes from the top. And I absolutely buy the most commercial organizations and agencies I work with and have worked with are the ones where the leaders, the owners of the agency, the senior management team are absolutely highly commercial, or where they recognize they need somebody to do that. And so they've brought someone in to do that role for them because actually they still are madly in love with the doing of the research. From your experience, what do you see as being kind of the cultural shifts or the cultural norms you have to embed?
And I don't think it's simple, but it ain't easy, I guess would be the phrase that this isn't hard stuff. I think it's, the more you talk about it, the more you talk about it. I think one of the things I see one of the things I'd like to see more is to give sales and marketing a seat at the table, literally, right? Most companies, most firms have a Monday morning staff meeting or something to that effect, where they talk about the projects that just happened, the projects coming up. Maybe they run through the finances, but they're not talking about sales and marketing. And I think that's a great place to do that, right? You've got senior leadership and maybe mid-level leadership at the table. Let's talk about what we're doing to grow this business. What's in the pipeline? What are the opportunities? What key targets have we met with in the last week? Whatever the details are, but talk about it every week. Because if you talk about it every week, then you're going to talk about it every week, and it's going to become part, and that's going to filter its way down. I think, to me, that's one of the key elements, or one of the key ways to begin to change the culture, is talk about it frequently.
Okay. And do you think that's... Sorry, go on.
I was a true story related to that. I had a client several years ago that has since been acquired by somebody else, but they literally were not allowed to use the word sales in conversation inside the building.
What?
Dead serious. They didn't. They didn't like the word sales. Now, this was a wildly successful mid-sized research agency, but they didn't like the word sales. They thought it was somehow smarmy or whatever. But they did. So I just, okay, that's a perfect example of what we have to change in this industry. Now, it may be an extreme example, but it is. It's sort of the mindset of this industry. Is the sales is a wonderful thing. Nothing happens until somebody sells something. So let's talk about it. Let's celebrate it.
Okay. So I sorry, before I was rudely interrupting you in the middle of your anecdote, but
in the middle of my rant.
So, but my question was, do you think it should be just at a certain level in the business, or do you actually want? Do you think that the kind of the whole culture and the conversation and the language needs to trickle down right down to the most junior people in the organization, or indeed into bits of the organization that aren't even necessarily client facing, the operations teams and those types of things? Do you think it's right and proper that it's the whole business that kind of starts to kind of have this in their DNA?
I absolutely do. I don't know that we need to talk about how much commission Mary earned this month on her sales, those kind of things.
Sure.
Not, but why are we not talking about, if John closes the company's first deal with Procter and Gamble, why are we not celebrating that throughout the organization, just not at the senior level? If the qualitative department, if that's how you measure it, is up in revenue 20% this year, everybody needs to know that and be excited about it, because for the entire company, even those in non-client facing positions, that means I've got a future here. Things are good.
Yeah.
We ought to be using words like sales and selling and revenue and sales leads and market. No, why not talk about that? But we just don't. Okay. It's almost like that example I gave you. It's almost like it's forbidden. It's taboo to talk about that. And I think that's just wrong.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, one of the things I would observe is I also see this a lot. There's kind of that sense of nervousness around, we're talking about commercial money and sales, and it's all a bit. One of the things that I've seen work quite effectively is you start to talk about not necessarily sales, but you talk about commercial relationships, and you talk to people who may not be that motivated by the winning of revenue. They're motivated by the doing of great research and great projects and finding great insights. But even people like that, I think, can be motivated and engaged when you talk about it or couch it in the terms of, look, if you want to continue to do more of this great work for this client, you need to work out how to build the relationship with them. And by the way, relationship building is essentially sales. It may not be the cold calling sales approach that we kind of people assume or associate with sales, but actually it is it's ongoing nurturing engagement, conversations with clients about what their commercial issues are, what their research needs are, how they've used the previous research, what they've got planned coming up, because all of those things contribute to the point where the client goes, actually, you know what, we have a brief here. Would you mind giving us a proposal on it? So I think sometimes it's about, I wouldn't ever suggest removing the word sales from the lexicon, because I think it's bonkers. But I do think it's okay to couch some of the language to make it feel less scary or less threatening or less associated with, you know what, I'm a secondhand car salesman, and what I'm trying to do here is sell you some old jalopy. No, you're not. You're a relationship manager developing and growing relationships with clients to help them build value for them and also have a value exchange, which happens to mean that you get paid.
It's interesting. That's a great example. I think there's a lot of folks in our industry who are great researchers, who have great relationships with their clients, who are having those conversations about what we might call upselling and cross-selling, but it's part of their natural communication. The fact is they're in sales and they don't know it. So part of, I think, the culture is helping them understand that they are in fact in a bit of a sales role, and how vital it is to the company's health and, frankly, their own job security, because they keep that work coming in.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think that's another thing that in terms of kind of looking at the culture of an organization is, are we investing in developing our marketing and sales skills? We send our researchers to research conferences all year round. Do you send anybody to a sales or marketing conference?
Yeah.
You need to. And that's a perfect example, right? Those senior project managers you're talking about who are already in sales, we just need to tweak their mindset a little bit, and they go, yeah, that's right, that's what I'm doing.
And I absolutely buy that. And interesting enough, I work with a number of agencies that have made that, are making or have made that transition. You can see that reflected in their success at growing relationships, at keeping revenue growth going, at coming up with interesting, relevant content that they can share with their clients and their prospects, because they're kind of starting to think in those terms. I also think it's really important, actually, that you start this point about the training and development, that starts at the earliest possible opportunity in an individual's career. So, as a grad or as an entry level person into the industry and into an agency, I would urge, the owners or leaders in that agency, start imbuing these skills and these attributes and the recognition of this is a value service right from day one. Because I don't know what you see, but what I see is people get promoted to a certain level because they're technically proficient or excellent or passionate about their research skills. And then they get to a certain level and suddenly it's like, right, now you're earning this amount of salary. We need you to go and sell some stuff. And they go, oh my God, I've got no idea how to do this. What are you talking about? Please don't ask me to do this. I'm going to just carry on with the project stuff and hope that nobody notices.
And that, what you just described, is exactly what happens, right? Yeah. They're asked, told to go sell, but they always default to the doing. Oh, I'm too busy. I'm wrapped up in a project. I don't have time to sell.
Yeah.
So, some of that will go back to Paul in terms of a kind of, who do we hire?
Yeah.
Right. We need to hire researchers who can do the skill, but do we want to maybe inquire a little more about their interest or inclination to working with clients and prospects in a sales related function above and beyond doing the research? I don't think that's probably part of the interviewing process right now, but why shouldn't it be if they're going to at some point be asked to do that? Or frankly, if you're going to build a team that's good at that, find the people that want to do it.
Yeah, I think some of the reticence around doing that is because the people doing the interviewing or making the hiring decisions are not necessarily that comfortable themselves with that as a subject or as an activity to do. So I think it's quite difficult to kind of recruit to that if actually you're sitting there going, I'm not sure what's actually required because maybe I don't do it myself or I don't feel comfortable doing it myself. So I think this culture thing is really interesting. I'd actually come at this from a slightly different angle. So when I was thinking about prepping for this episode, I was thinking about what are the concepts that I don't think agencies talk about enough in their commercial conversations internally. And I'd come up with a few kind of ideas or things that I think are conceptually really important in the sales and marketing process and would help build this culture out. So I was thinking of things like very few clients that I ever meet for the first time when I talk to them about, do they have actually a fully constructed customer journey? So have they mapped out the process that a client takes from, we've never heard of you, to we're going to give you some money, and the steps that you have to take them through in that customer journey or that funnel, I think is a really, really important concept that a lot of agencies don't really think about. Or if they do, the trigger point for that is based on someone's asked us for a proposal. So at the point where someone's asked us for a proposal, we've got a pipeline. We've got a process for how we write the proposal, take the brief and write the proposal. But what they're not doing is filling all of the top of the funnel. And you and I both know, Steve, that if you're not filling the top of that funnel, you're not getting enough proposals in to be able to grow and to make your business successful. So that was one of the things that I think when I was looking at this, I was thinking, what do we need to do? The other one, and you're gonna laugh at this because I know you kind of is some sort of customer relationship management structure or process or, God help us, system. Whether it be the free version of HubSpot or Zoho or Salesforce or whatever else, but actually, and the pipeline and that customer journey can be really effectively mapped through your CRM system. But it's really rare for me when I go in and talk to agencies, even now after all of the the growth of marketing technology and stuff, for them to really kind of have a very good sense of what CRM is, or indeed to be using it, or if they do have a system, to be them actually go, yeah, we put it in place, we don't really use it, we're not quite sure how to get the value from it. So those were kind of when we were talking about kind of the language and the conversations. What I was thinking about was kind of what can we do to broaden that. And actually, it's the other side of the coin from what you're talking about, because if you're talking about your pipeline and what's in your CRM systems, and you're having those weekly meetings to review all of this stuff, which is imbuing it into the culture, you're also going to be better at managing that part of the sales and marketing function and understanding in the business.
I think your two examples, pipeline and CRM, are great examples, and they are the fodder for those Monday morning conversations, right? If you're keeping those things up to date, you're talking about that. It's interesting you mentioned pipeline or funnel. I see this way more often than not, as I'll talk to a client or prospective client about their pipeline. They say, oh, we have a pipeline, and it's always just, what projects did we bid on and did we win or not?
Yeah.
To your point, where are the steps before that?
Yes.
Not only do they not think about filling the funnel, they're not talking about filling the funnel. They don't understand the journey. They haven't decided what the steps are. They're not tracking people. And further to your point, the CRM, if you use it, allows you to do that really easily.
Yeah.
I mean, in HubSpot, for example, it's easy. It's graphical, so you can follow it. Yeah. You can print out a report and show management where the pipe. It's not, again, it's simple, but it ain't easy. So the tools are there. I think the sort of the framework for changing the culture is there. Mm-hmm. It's just somebody at the top of the food pyramid needs to say, this is how we're going to do it moving forward.
Yeah.
And until that happens, it's gonna be hit or miss. It's gonna be random.
Yeah. But it seems to me, just because I'm mindful of time and we're coming to the end of our 20 minutes, is you kind of almost need. There's a couple of things here. So you need a process, which is to your point, the Monday morning ritual of going through things and talking about not just projects, but what's happening from a sales and marketing perspective. Mm. So there's a process there. There's some system stuff, which may be around having a CRM or a conceptual pipeline that goes beyond the point where it's just we've been issued a proposal. And then there's a whole thing around people and training and education to make people feel comfortable doing this stuff and talking about it and things. And I wonder if the takeout from this for me is that actually you need to have that combination of process and system and kind of education and probably leadership. Leadership is probably the other thing, to be able to say, well, actually, that's how we unlock this. To your point, it's not difficult, but it's bloody difficult to do. It's difficult to deliver. Right. And I wonder if that's kind of where the takeout is. You need to align those things to unlock this and make this better in your agency.
And I would tweak one of those, Paul. I think I agree. As I've said from the beginning here, it's about top down. So leadership is important, but I think part of that leadership is holding people accountable.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. It's not just saying we're going to do this, go do it. It's making sure it gets done. Because I think about, if you showed up at the Monday morning staff meeting to talk about the projects and you were ill prepared to talk about the projects, you would get scolded.
Yeah. Okay.
The same thing needs to happen with sales and marketing. Come prepared, hold people, whoever it is you're holding accountable to the pipeline, to the marketing reports, whatever it is, and then deliver on it. Again, once it starts and you kind of get into the habit of it, because, habits are, behavioral changes, right? So once you get into the habit of it, then you're there. It's just a matter of keeping it going and holding people accountable and making sure that it's getting done. Yeah. So no, I think you brought it down to the four key things, and I think you're right on the money.
Brilliant. Holding our listeners, or making sure that we're accountable to our listeners. We're now over 20 minutes, so we need to wrap up. Thank you so much, Steve. I'm looking forward to episode 5, where I think we're going to be talking about sales and marketing structures. So touching on some of the stuff we've talked about here, but actually, how do you structure that in an organization? How do you resource it, and those sorts of things? So thank you as ever for episode 4. I think it's been a humdinger, and look forward to talking to you for episode 5 in due course.
Paul, the pleasure was mine. Talk to you again soon, my friend. And for those of you out there, any questions about these sorts of things, please reach out to Paul and I. We're happy to talk about all of this stuff offline as well. So see you next time.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve. Cheers.
See you, Paul.
Thanks for watching and listening to Across the Pond. Get in touch with Paul at clientadvocates.co.uk and Steve at harpethmarketing.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.